listening to IBGR.network, the International Business Growth Radio Network, and I am your host, Jan Robberts, global influencer, co-founder of Key Leadership Institute, and founder of JR Speakers Club. I'm a coach, trainer, speaker, values-based leadership specialist, personal profiling consultant, and personal development professional. For more information about me, go to the ibgr.net website and check out my profile. There you will also find all the links to follow me and get in touch with me. But by the way, we would love to hear from you in real time during the show. So if you're listening live or even to one of the recordings, you can always connect and interact with us on the social media. That's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter at ibgr.network. Well, it's yet another glorious Thursday morning in sunny Scotland, I like to say, because this time of the year we don't normally have that many of them. But the sun is blaring down on us and we are glad to be alive. And remember, it's the 5th of November. And the 5th of November is also the 5th episode here. It's called P1053 if you're looking for the notes. Cultural Awareness in Business in our P1 lane, People Skills for Business. And that's at ibgr.network. So you can go to our website at www.ibgr.network and download the show notes, which our team, will put on there. They're amazing. Donna and Bill especially, they're doing so much to make us look better. And we need all the help we can get, of course. And they do. They provide everything. For as Bill said just now, I was listening to him. There is no buffer this time. This show is on at 11 o'clock every Thursday in the People sites. But we are now well underway in our 3rd season, and this is an exciting season for a variety of reasons. First of all, we are sharing tips, tools, techniques, and wisdom. Of course, as I said before, that last one is from all my amazing colleagues on the show. I think there's close to or around about 40 at the moment. And secondly, we want you, our audience, to ask questions in each episode, each session from each show host and their respective subjects, which of course range from operations, customers, finance, to today's show about people, and then tomorrow, Friday, about owners as executives, about working on the business rather than in the business. And because we are covering 4 time zones all around the world, we are on air 24/7. Yes, you heard it right, all day, every day. I am sure there will be enough in all these areas to support you on your journey wherever you are. Because this show, it starts with level 1, and it actually goes on to where we start when you're planning a business or entrepreneurial journey, to level 5 or 6, where you can even in between, depending on the level of business you're on, or also if you want to excite your business. Now I know your business is excited, but if you want to leave it, there's also shows to help you with that one. So yes, it is wonderful, and we've already got listeners here from America, from South Africa. My partner Artie, who's on later on today, is already listening, and I'm sure there's listeners from all over the world. But today, I will talk about culture, what it is, why it is important for all of us, whether in our personal and social communications and interactions, in our relationships, or whether it is in building your business. So, if this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. Now, shortly I could say this. I need to say something because last week an actor I really regarded as the James Bond, James Bond. That was, of course, our Sean Connery. He passed away at the age of 90. So, my respect to his family, but it was wonderful to have had him in our midst, and he will be fondly remembered. But this is absolutely amazing where we've got to so far. We've got, if I'm wrong, I'm sure that it'll flash past my screen very shortly, but I know that for a fact that we're now in 139 countries around the world. And people are listening to a wide variety of hosts and their programs every single week. And that is no mean feat after being only in our 3rd season. As I say, it's exciting. But let's first talk a little more into what cultural awareness actually is. And then we will discuss further how and why this is important in business as much as in your personal life. Especially your social interactions with people who are culturally different from you. See, it's like in personalities as well, it's the same. It's always easy to interact with people who are similar to you because you know them, you understand them. But what with the people who are not? And of course, we are in a global community, so we need to become more aware of the people who are not. It is much personality in culture, in learning styles. There is so many areas, but today it's all about culture. So in fact, let's take another step back first and look at culture itself and what it means. Well, I've done a fair bit of homework for this as well, even though my partner, Arthur Moore, who's on later today, is one of the foremost diversity and inclusion specialists. So I've learned a lot firsthand about all the different cultures, especially in Southern Africa. And South Africa has got 11 main languages and many cultures. And it's amazing to just observe and learn from the different cultures. But culture is the characteristics and knowledge of a particular group of people encompassing, I've researched it because I'm using big words at the moment, language, religion, cuisine, social habits, music and arts. And the word culture derives from a French term which in turn derives from the Latin colere, which means to tend to the earth and grow, or cultivation and nurture. So you can see where culture really fits in even with people, but I'll elaborate a little bit more in our second session today. So cultural awareness is all about recognizing and understanding that we all have different values shaped by our diverse cultural backgrounds. What we consider to be normal behavior in one country can be entirely different in another. In fact, it can be offensive in some cultures. So it is worth knowing these kind of things. So cultural awareness is essential for all employees working across cultures. See, by providing your employees with opportunities to participate in a cross-cultural training program or diversity and inclusion awareness training, you will increase their cultural awareness, which will help them avoid the risk of major miscommunications or even international failure. And I'll talk a little bit more into that later on. But there has been international incidents because of lack of culture. There's been international contracts not signed because the people who were involved did not realize the difference in culture, and they didn't only upset people, but they actually insulted people in other cultures. So it is really important, not only for that, of course, but we should all learn to understand each other a bit better. We should all learn to get on with each other a bit better. We should all learn for ourselves how we can understand before being understood. And I think that takes a lot of cultural awareness as well, because if we can understand different people, where they are, where they come from, then we really can connect much better with them. It makes so much sense. Now, there is also a thing such as cultural sensitivity. Now, also sometimes referred as cross-cultural sensitivity or simple cultural awareness. It is the knowledge, awareness, and acceptance of other cultures and other cultural identities. Now, this is so important because we need to learn to accept other cultures much better, and for that we need to first understand them, of course. So, understanding cultural awareness is essential because otherwise it's easy for people to underestimate the impact cultural differences can have. Underestimating culture is the point in which things can start to go wrong, horribly wrong at times. And although it may be easy to learn facts and do's and don'ts about different cultures, this is not necessarily being culturally aware. There's a big difference in that. And if you think of cultures as an iceberg, and in the show notes I actually put the iceberg in there because I think it's important. What we see of a culture is tiny in comparison to what we cannot see. It is the unseen element of culture, such as values and beliefs, that are usually hardest for people to understand and to deal with. So when we interact in cross-cultural situations, a lack of awareness can lead to bad or poor decisions. Now, if you look at the show notes, which you can download, the iceberg, the top of the iceberg, which is visible, it's about arts, language, behavior, dress, celebration, foods. But the bigger part, which is very important that we cannot see and we need to become more aware of, values, customs, roles, traditions, rules, statutes, beliefs, thought patterns and perceptions. Those are equally important and we need to become aware of them. So cultural awareness helps us reduce the chances of making bad decisions and increases the chance of us making more insightful, considered decisions. So items for our discussions in the next few sessions will be, what exactly is culture? So we're going to have a brief look into the different cultures around the world to get an idea of what culture actually is. And then we're going to talk about what can different cultures teach us. Also, we're going to talk about culture awareness in the workplace, which is really what it all comes down to in the end. But we need to become aware of the whole picture. And then understanding cultural awareness in business. Now, it's all very important, and we need to be totally aware of it. I mean, I had a story which I thought was wonderful, and I'm full of stories actually, but there was an old monk and his young understudy went on a trip which would take several days. It had rained quite heavily and the paths were very muddy and difficult to walk on. But at some point they came to a small river which had much more water flowing in it than usual. Now on the bank there stood a beautiful young lady not knowing how to get to the other side. Now this was a real challenge for the monks, of course, you know, the cultural stuff, as they were not allowed to go near the woman, let alone touch her. So the young wannabe monk looked at the distressed young lady, but remembered his vows, so thought no more of it, and he was ready to cross the treacherous river, when, in total disbelief, he saw the old monk talk to the lady, lift her on his back, then carry her through the heavy flow to the other side. There, as he let her go, she was most thankful for his help. They greeted, and the two monks went on their way. But the young one was thinking about what just happened, as he could not believe what he just witnessed. How could this master, his teacher, his mentor do such a thing when surely this was totally inappropriate? So this kept him occupied for hours until he just had to know why this had happened. So he asked his mentor, we clearly had a vow of celibacy, yet you carried it across. Why? The old monk answered, well, if you're still carrying that young lady, why, I put it down 4 hours ago. So now what does this have to do with this session? Well, nothing really much, but it's a little bit of difference in culture, and sometimes we need to understand and accept and sometimes go out of our way to help other cultures. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. But we are now at the point that we're going to take a 2 to 3 minute break, and I will see you afterwards. So don't go away.